The Kansas City Royals are a bad baseball team. They're deep in the heart of the tank, and there's little to look forward to in the short-term future. But that's just what's on the surface. When you look further, you find what the Royals are dealing with are merely the realities of Major League Baseball. That's long been known that there are two completely different playing fields in the majors. There's the upper class, the Yankees, Dodgers, Red Sox, Cubs, and Giants, and then your less fortunate franchises, the A's, Reds, Marlins, and Royals. All things considered, the Royals merely won in many windows that were crushed by several realities: the lack of a hard salary cap, the exponentially rising cost of running a team, and the eventualities of the once young players demanding to be paid accordingly. Kansas City hit this wall in 16. You see, the small market teams cannot simply sign every player that's due an extension. They must pick and choose. In Casey's case, there were 5 big players as a part of their core: Eric Hosmer, Mike Moustakas, Salvador Perez, Alex Gordon, and Lorenzo Cain were gunning for big contracts during this time. And the Royals only came out with Gordon, who was in his early 30s, and Perez, who underwent Tommy John surgery. They offered contracts to Hosmer and Cain, but were rejected for 2 teams on the other end of the small market window, those being San Diego and Milwaukee. And although Moustakas ended up coming back, it was only because he didn't get any good offers. So he came back on a 1-year deal, only to be dealt to Milwaukee the following season. So, with 3 of the main pieces of the Royals' core gone, the Royals' window was officially shut. And now they must endure another long rebuild that will hopefully get them back to the promised land. This is why you can't make fun of a team like the Royals, for this is what every small market team must come to terms with. You can mock all the questionable moves they made, you can laugh at them for losing the majority of their core for next to nothing, but it's hollow. This is their reality. They must make the most of their short-term window and then start over in the hopes that they can get back to old. But for how long will the cycle continue? Who knows? It could be brief, or it could take much longer. There are rebuilds that have failed for a decade or longer. Just look at the Royals throughout the 90s and thousands. They were a walking joke of a league, a team that couldn't develop players, and when they did, they gave them away for next to nothing due to organizational cheapness. Carlos Beltran. During this decade, all you could hear was that baseball was never healthier. And while on the surface that is true, in reality, it was because the small markets found new ways to play. The way they must contend is with the farm system. They must draft wisely, they must develop with efficiency, they must trade to get young players who could thrive in their system, and they must identify and then capitalize on the controllable years of their core players. To be completely honest, the Royals are the lucky ones. They made back-to-back World Series appearances, the second of which they took home the Commissioner's Trophy for the first time in 30 years. No tanking in the world will take that away. But our small market teams of late haven't been as lucky. The Tampa Bay Rays have made the World Series twice in this time frame, and they got smacked by the Phillies and Dodgers in both appearances. The Oakland A's have been chasing after that rainbow for 20 years, and they haven't gotten anywhere close to a World Series, their last appearance being in 1990. The Indians had a great chance to win the World Series in 16, but they choked and kept their streak alive. The Pirates had their window and failed. The Orioles had their windows and failed. The Brewers had their window and failed. And the same can be said about the Reds, Padres, Twins, and it keeps going. From the beginnings of this disparity, the majority of the success has been from the bigger markets, and nothing's going to change on that front. Obviously, there's something to fix it, right? Perhaps a hard salary cap. It's not happening. The time for that to occur was in the early 90s, and the Players' Union would refuse to go anywhere near it. What about punishing tanking with a draft lottery? All it does is make it more challenging for a small market since it's now a crapshoot. Take the small market owners in task and force them to invest more in their teams and risk their job as commissioner. There's pretty much nothing to be done. So here's my opinion. Don't hate the players, hate the league. The MLB enables this crap and has done so for decades. And frankly, they're content with this baseball economy since they make healthy profits from broadcasting rights and sponsorships. If I'm a small market owner, why should I complain? I simply connect revenue sharing and puck around a few million per year on top of ticket sales. It's the safest, most efficient business enterprise they could want. And that's the quandary of this dilemma. These teams are not only held back by their owners' lack of monetary capital and player contracts, but by the MLB as a whole. And honestly, to me it feels like nothing will change since it appears that the owners are content with this two-worlds dynamic. Thus, if you're a small market team, you can only be like the Royals, tank like hell, and hope you get another shot or two in a few years down the line.